Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good evening, my friends. This is Angie Stewart from Mia, InnerLight, and Kardec Radio. It's 9 p.m. sharp, and we are live. Very, very happy to be here. Let me just turn on the comments. 1 second. Let me see if the video is working. Please, guys, can you just confirm if you can hear the sound? Everything is good. I hope it is. So we are just in the prep, waiting for the friends to come, just checking the sound. If you are with us a long time, you know that I always ask you to have some bottle of water, because the enlightened spirits, they will pray, they will send, we will pray, and they will send the good and positive energies to the bottle, and it will be your medication for the week. So just to start, we studied 2 books in 1 hour. We studied 30 minutes of this beautiful book. What is Spiritism? So this book Kardec wrote right after the Spirits book, and here we are diving into the biography of Kardec. So we are understanding deeply who was Kardec, how he started studying the table turning movement, and then later on he was able to actually codify the Spiritist philosophy for us. And then after the 30 minutes, we studied this book, the Gospel According to Spiritism. So this is a beautiful book with the moral teachings of Jesus, with this new insight that Kardec brings to us, explaining many things we couldn't understand before, especially like the parables of Jesus, that some of them were so confusing, so difficult to understand. So this is a beautiful book, and it's wonderful that we can study together. It's always easier when we can exchange some messages, conversation. So I welcome all of you to please write your questions, your comments. It will be really, really nice to engage. And now in the new format, we always have 2 guests. So every time I'm trying to have 2 guests with us to make this conversation more exciting. So just before we come, I received a wonderful surprise today. So I'm so excited. I have to be careful. My other group, we have our main group. That's Mia, InnerLight, that we talk about the Spiritist philosophy of life, the studies, the moral teachings of Jesus, how to be happy, and so much more. And from this group, I created another group. That's an ecumenical group. It's for everybody, with religion, with philosophy, no religion, to everybody. So this other group, charitable group, is called Volunteers of Love. And a few weeks ago, I discovered that we actually won an award. Look, I received the award today. Look at this. Look how beautiful. I feel like I'm ready for the Oscar. Look how cute. You see? So beautiful. And look at the name, Volunteers of Love. So this was a beautiful gift that all the volunteers of love that worked so hard for 3 years here in Miami were able to give this to us. So I'm receiving it in the name of the so many volunteers that helped me through these 3 years of charitable work here in Miami. So it's really a blessing, and I'm so super excited. On the 23rd, we'll have some award that will be live, because we can't go to parties, but it will be really exciting. I will let you guys know exactly how to see, if you would like to see it. So right now, I would like to invite all of you to relax for a minute. Let's do our prayer, and then we can dive in our studies. God, our Mother and Father, thank you so much for bringing us again here tonight to continue our studies, to continue improving on a daily basis, helping us to be able to follow the teachings of our Master Jesus, becoming a better person day by day, not just with the teachings, but also with our own actions. Help us to put in practice what we are learning. Thank you so much. So be it. Very good, my friends. Let me just see if anyone said anything here. Yay! Hello, Claudia. Claudia today will be one of our guests. Hi, Nora. How are you? Very good to have you here. Teresa will be also one of our guests. Hello, Livia. Happy to have you here. Livia is actually in Brazil right now, watching from Brazil. Very good to have you here. So, guys, if you don't have the paper version, I always tell everybody that I'm an old-fashioned person because I love paper books. But for this study, I actually acquired the internet version just to make it easier for you guys that will be seeing it. So here, I hope you guys can read it. I hope it's big enough for you to read. So before we go into the reading portion, let me see. Yeah, he's good. Last week we were talking about who was Kardec. So the previous week, the first week, we were talking about what actually was Spiritism. So we started with the Fox sisters in the United States. Then everything that happened to them, they had a real mediumship, but because of so many reasons, they end up saying it was a fraud and they received the money for it. And when one of the sisters finally went public and said, no, it was not a fraud, it was too late. Nobody in the US believed it. But the movement actually went to Europe. And then it's flourishing in Europe. And in Europe, it started with the movement of the turning tables, became like a fever, was the Netflix of the time. Everybody's going everywhere to have fun with the turning tables. They didn't really understand what was it, but it was fun. Somehow it answered questions, so they were enjoying it. Then last week we were talking about who was Allan Kardec. So we learned that Allan Kardec was a very famous professor. His name was Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivaio. He was very famous. He was developing special techniques to teach kids in that time, in the 1800s, to a special technique that he actually learned in Switzerland with his master, his teacher, Pestalozzi. So last week we also learned that Kardec was a very serious man. He was not like a jokester. Even if we are reading the biography and we are learning that Kardec was actually a fun guy, a very friendly person, but when it was related to his job or his studies, he was very serious. So at a young age, he got married to his wife, Amélie Boudet. She was 9 years older than him, and they loved each other deeply, and they worked together deeply. So this is also one of the wonderful things, because when Kardec died, Amélie Boudet was very important with the codification, not just what was in France, but how she was able to take his works and send to his friends in Brazil. But this we are going to see much, much later. Today, we are going to continue diving into this beautiful biography that was written, and I already mentioned it was 46 pages by Henri Sauce. But we are doing like a summary. So I will show you just the main portions, and then we can comment within this time that I have another 20 minutes, because we want to stop at 9:30 to do the gospel. So within it, let's go. I will read, and please feel free to write if you would like to ask anything, okay? So this is actually what Kardec was mentioning. So he said, I observed closely, comparing and deducing the consequences. Here, he is talking about the table turning movement. He already met some people that were very influential, and they were very rigorous in their comments, in their questions to the spirits. And Kardec is observing, he's not accepting, he's trying to understand what is that. So he says, I saw in this phenomena the key to very obscure and controversial problem of humanity's past and future. The solution that I had sought my entire life. It was, in a word, a complete resolution. Let me just move this here so I can move the book actually. So here Kardec is mentioning how he was observing, and he understood that this movement, this turning table, was something actually very important, that he might have found the answers to these humanity questions, these philosophical questions that nobody could understand. So he says, it was, in a word, a complete revolution in my ideas and beliefs. This is very interesting. Imagine a revolution. This is almost like for myself when I got the Spirit's book for the first time. I was in disbelief with the answers, but I was also in disbelief with the questions, because the questions that Kardec does in the Spirit's book are questions that we all want to know, but sometimes are questions that we never even thought about. It's like, whoa, I never even thought about, but I would like to know about the answer. So this is really good. So he continues. One of the first results of my observations was that the spirits, being nothing more than human souls, were endowed with neither supreme knowledge nor supreme wisdom, that their knowledge was limited to the degree of their evolution. This is key. This is key, because here we can understand that Kardec understood the answers of the spirits like they are really human beings. So he starts observing the answers, and he starts saying their answers are very peculiar to what they believe or to what they know. So he understood the spirits, just because they die, they don't get a supreme knowledge. It's not that immediately, woo, we become like wise. So this was a fruit of his observations. So this is very good for us to understand how Kardec thought. And then he continues. Communicating with spirits proved the existence of an unseen world surrounding us. So this is like there is life everywhere that we can see. Kardec was not a medium. So he was with mediums that were writing these messages. And many times he is making the questions right there. And the girls, especially the Baudin girls, the young girls that we comment last week, they immediately were writing. So this was amazing. This is almost like for us nowadays with the microscope and with the telescope. You know, just because we can see the super ultra small particles, it doesn't mean it don't exist. The same thing, the planets. Nowadays, yes, there are so many telescopes that are bringing us so many different galaxies, especially after the Hubble, but still there are so much more that even the biggest telescope nowadays still can't show us, but we already know it exists. So this is what Kardec is discovering. So he continues, the second point, each spirit disclosed an aspect of that world precisely as one would come to understand the state of the country by questioning the inhabitants of all classes and conditions. So this is the continuation that Kardec is explaining, that they understood things, how they lived. So we are going to see continue with Kardec's observations that later on he started understanding that there were certain spirits that had a much broader knowledge from others. But at this moment, he's just analyzing little by little. Let me just go back here to see. Guys, if you ask anything, I will be going back and forth because I'm in my text, so I can't see your questions. But Claudia and Teresa are there. They can start answering if I don't see it. So continue with his observations. I acted with the spirits as I would with persons. For me, they were from the least to the highest, a means of gathering information and not predestined revelators. This is important. Kardec saw the spirits just as human beings. They are just not there physically, but they are answering to the level of their knowledge. They are not predestined revelators. You know, even nowadays, a lot of people go to these psychic people, like in New York, every corner there is some kind of person reading palms, playing tarot cards, reading the crystal ball. And, you know, when we see Kardec, he understood they are just dead. They are just dead, but they are not special because they are dead. They will be us when we die. So me, Angie, when I die, I will not have a knowledge much bigger than what I have right now. Will be more or less what I have, of course, with the time. If I have merit, I will be able to connect with all my past incarnations. And maybe in a past incarnation, I was like, who knows? I was like a musician, or I had some kind of a knowledge that in this lifetime, for some reason, I couldn't have. But I usually, as soon as we wake up in the other side, we are exactly the same, even physically. We will be showing ourselves the same way that we were when we were living here on earth. So let's continue. To this information, which is contained in Kardec's posthumous works, Mr. Rivaio was at the point of abandoning them. He might have actually done so, if not in the pressing solicitations of Mr. Carlotti, Mr. René Talandier, that was a member of the Science Academy, and Mr. Tidman Mantis, the Sordo, father and son, and Mr. Didier, the publisher. So all these men, as you can see, they were men of science. They were men that were really thinkers. They were not just anyone. They were not asking questions, and I'm going to get married tomorrow, and I'm going to win some kind of inheritance. No, they were very similar to Kardec's ways of thinking and living. And as you see, these men, they were together studying these questions much before Kardec joined them. So the next sentence goes, this man who for 5 years had followed the study of the phenomena and had gathered 50 notebooks, it's not 5, 50 notebooks containing many communications. So this is wonderful. Before reading this book, I didn't know that. I thought Kardec himself is the one who started writing all his questions. I thought until that moment that was just like jokes, just like I get married, I'm gonna be rich, die, whatever. But no, there were already a group of very serious people studying, asking very intelligent questions, taking notes of this. And these are the men. Mr. Didier is the publisher. He is one of the key people. But as you could see, if it weren't them, Kardec wanted to give up. He was ready to, no. But let's continue. So they take these 50 books and they give to Kardec. So this gentleman gave him the notebooks, asking him to take cognizance of them and to put them in order. So what happened? They had all these books, they had all these questions, but they just didn't have time, or they didn't have the ability to put the books together separated by items, by subject. They had just the books, but they had not have the ability to separate. But knowing Kardec to be a professor, extremely organized, he was a linguistic. He spoke fluent many languages. He wrote many books about studying, about how to teach certain things, how to teach mothers to be able to help the kids, how to help teachers. So they knew Kardec had the capability of doing. So they gave the books to him, and basically they told him, okay, you take care of it, you organize it. And then one night, his protector spirit, now called Z, through a medium, gave him altogether a personal communication. At the time of the Druids, they had lived together in Gaul. At the time, he was called Allan Kardec. And since they had been such great friends, this spirit had promised to help him in the highly important task to which he had been called. So when Kardec got those notebooks, let's just read this other portion. He took the notebooks and carefully annotated them. After a close reading, he eliminated the repetitions and put each dictation in each session, report in its proper order, and highlighted the gaps to fill and the obscurities to clarify, and prepare the questions needed to achieve this result. So, amazing. So who knows how long this man had those books, and they weren't able to do it. And Kardec, it seems like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Kardec was able to organize everything. But this spirit here, that his name is actually Zephyrus, he told Kardec that in a past incarnation, when they lived in Gaul, they were friends, and in that lifetime, his name was Allan Kardec, because until now, his name is Hippolyte, is not Allan Kardec. And he gets this information in his mind. He's like, wow, so I was friends with the Zephyrus, and my name was Allan Kardec, and he's going to help me with this task. So he actually felt empowered to, okay, I can do it. I can actually put this task to work, because now I have a help from this spirit, Zephyrus. Whoops, let me just remove the sound from my phone. Okay, so let's continue here. I have to pay attention to the time because I don't want to go over. So he continued. I came to each session with a series of prepared questions that were methodically proposed. They were responded to with precision, depth, and logic. So this is for you to see that Kardec was very well organized. He took the 50 books, Somehow he was able to read all the questions in the 50 books, separated the questions by items, understand the ones that were well answered, understand the ones that was kind of strange, weird, and needed more clarification, and returned. He was able to return to the next meeting. He was able to return to the next meeting with another set of questions, probably questions that he himself had, or the questions that were a little obscure that he actually mentioned that he needed to understand a little bit better. So let's go. In the beginning, I had only my own instruction in mind. Later, I got the idea to publish the work for widespread instructions. So, as you can see, when he started making these questions, he thought about knowing for himself, sharing with his friends this man of knowledge. But later on, he started thinking, this is much bigger. This is something huge. This is the knowledge that I want everybody to know, everybody to understand. That's when he started thinking, no, this has to become a book to be shared broadly. And that's when the idea of the Spirit's book came from. So this was like a key point. And then he continued, oops, come back. And then he continued here. My God, what's happening to you? It's internet. That's not really up to the movement of my page. So I was happy with such verification the spirits had recommended me, says Allan Kardec. And then he continued, a few questions that seemed thorny, like questions that were a little strange. More than 10 mediums cooperated in that work. And it was from the comparison and the joining of these responses, which were coordinated, classified, and many times reorganized in the silence of meditation, that I formed the first edition of the Spirit's book, which appeared on April 18, 1857. So this is beautiful. This is for us to understand that Kardec asked the same question to many different mediums, questions that he was not really sure, he couldn't understand well. He asked the same question to many mediums and he gathered all the answers, and then he started verifying what is like a pattern, what I can say it's really good, because different mediums answer the same thing. One thing that we have to understand too is that these mediums are not just the girls from Monsieur Baudin who lived, who he was going to their house, but he started actually asking these questions to mediums abroad, mediums in different countries. So this is really a way that that Kardec found to make sure the answers were good, the questions were good, and the answers were good too. And here we will start with the type of questions that he asked and the type of answers he received. But I'm not going to dive into this right now because we will go over our time to the gospel, and I actually don't want to go over our time. So it's really beautiful for us to understand Kardec, because when we read, when we dive into his biography, we start understanding how this man was able to do it. So we analyze his personality, we analyze his knowledge, his intelligence, the people that he used to be in relations with. So all this brings us why he was really the best qualified man for the task, why Jesus sent him with this task. But as we all should do, the spirits always do the same thing. So they tell a person, your task will be this. You will go to earth and you will do this job. But they know when we are in the spiritual realm, we are not receiving influences of anything. And we say yes, 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 very easily. But when we reincarnate, things change and we might change. So what they did, they sent other spirits with the same characteristics of Kardec, more or less at the same time, because if for any reason Kardec was not able to complete his task to codify the spirit's doctrine, other people would do it. And one of these people was Leon Denis. A coincidence is that Leon Denis' name is actually in the name of Allan Kardec. So Allan Kardec was called Hippolyte Léon Denis Revile. So there you get Léon Denis from Kardec's name. Beautiful. We have to be as organized as the spirits. So let's see. Everything is good here. No questions. So, what Saul said here, let me see here. So Saul said this book is really interesting. Thank you, Angela, for I am following on my book. Yes, Saul, I absolutely love this book too. So let me bring the girl. So we have here Claudia and we have here Teresa. Hello, girls. How are you? Very good.
Hello, good evening.
I removed the ticker here so your names would be able to show. I don't know why it's not showing, but anyway, so we have Teresa and Claudia, and we are going to our second book. Let me see the comments. Okay, so we are studying the gospel. Today is chapter 10, and we will be summarizing the items 9 to 13. Let me see if I can put us in a different position. Hold on. Like this. Like this. Oh, like this is good. I like this. Yeah.
Let me try to move this a little closer.
To be multitasking. So if you are new here, I will read a little bit. And today we are commenting 4 items. So I will be reading the speck and the plank in one's eye. I will read number 9. Then I will also read number 11. Number 11, the title is Do Not Judge, so that you yourself might not be judged. Let him who is without sin cast the first stone. This is really good for all of us. We actually have to dive into this. So I didn't introduce the girls because they are local. Teresa and Claudia, they were my guests here before when we were just doing the prayers. So girls, thank you so much for being with us. And I'm sure the study of the gospel is much more exciting with all of you here. So let's go. Number 9, the speck and the plank in one's eyes. How is it that you see a speck in your brother's eye, but you do not see the blank in your own? Or how is it that you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye while you have a plank in yours? You hypocrites, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will be able to take the speck out of your brother's eye. So just to clarify, the speck is a little tiny spot, and the plank is like a thin piece of wood. So the plank is bigger than the speck. This was in Matthew. And then another one from Matthew. Do not judge so that you yourself might not be judged. For you will be judged according to your having judged others, and the same measure will be used on you that you have used on them. This is also on Matthew. So before we comment, guys, if you were listening to it, if you want to ask questions, comments, please write, and it will be even more exciting for us to answer. So let's go, girls. What can you tell me about it? I will try to be quiet.
You want to go first, Teresa?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think first off, we can look at this thing about the spot and the speck and the plank, and it's kind of obvious what it's saying to us about looking at ourselves and comparing ourselves to someone else and making judgment. But I think that we're being pushed, and I think especially during this time, during the pandemic and the COVID, we are being pushed to see this in a higher light. That, and I'm going to phrase that I heard from a study last night with Nora Brazil. She said many times in the study, we are a reflection of each other. And I think that we're being pushed to see this, that I am that speck that's in your eye. You are the plank that's in my eye. And until we're being pushed now to raise our thinking, and to think more from our heart, and to know that I am you, you are me. And it's interesting, in another podcast I listened to, they took the phrase, I am that, when Moses said to the God, who are you? And the response was, I am that, or I am that I am, is that they were suggesting on this podcast that we put a comma and we say, I am that. And it's that idea of walking around, seeing whatever, I am that, and so that we get to recognize each other in each other's selves. And, they were expanding it even out to the trees and, nature. I am that. I am the tree. I am. And I think it's very powerful. So I think it is this trying to raise our consciousness, looking more at the universal family and starting to see each other in terms of our likeness instead of our separations. So I think it's a lift from that idea that we can't judge each other and we need to look at our own selves. But I think it is even pushing us higher to start to see ourselves in each other and to see our likeness rather than our separation. So thank you, Nora Brazil, for that nice study last night.
This is beautiful analysis, because even if many times, just before Claudia comments, even if many times we are quick to see problems in others. They're like, I see. We are quick to point our fingers, but we forget that sometimes we have different problems, but we also have problems. So exactly as you said, I am too, because even if maybe I don't have that problem that I'm pointing there, I have another one that maybe is even worse. But this is a good way for us to think. Claudia, what do you have to comment?
It starts item 10 with the following sentence. One of humankind's defects consists in seeing someone else's evil before seeing the evil that is within ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I think that summarizes very beautiful what Teresa was saying, that, and what you said. It's so easy, and it's funny because when it's something that doesn't bother us, we'll go right ahead and we'll tell the person, no, you shouldn't be doing this way, you should be doing that way, right? However, when it bothers us, we get mad. But why do we get mad? Because sometimes it's our own defects that we see, that we actually identified that reflection, Teresa was saying. And instead of telling them what to do, because otherwise you have to tell yourself what to do, you get angry. It's funny how that plays, right?
It is true.
Uh-huh.
And we have to be careful because sometimes we really get crazy. We pass angry. Many times we even stop talking to a person because of whatever a reaction, and then we are like, if we were able to calm down a little bit and try not to react. This is what the spirits always tell us. This is the beautiful message in the book Nosso Lar, in the movie Astral City, that scene that what is the camera here, where André Luiz's spirit receives the glass of water to shut up because he was talking too much, too many questions. And with us, we have immediately have all these complaints in our head and we're gonna vomit on top of the other person. If we could calm down a little bit, we would do exactly what Claudia is saying. We would like analyze why I'm so angry. Maybe because I really identify with that. And I'm not doing, but she's doing, and I'm angry. So this is a way for us to think and really try to control ourselves. Teresa, how do you control yourself when you are angry?
That is a trick question.
Well, yeah. Sometimes quite well, and sometimes not so good. But I think one of the mantras that has really been helping me at the times when I do it well is just that idea that God has allowed it. And so sometimes when I'm like, why is it this way? Or why aren't they doing it that way? Just that little repeated thing that God has allowed this. It gives me, I think, that moment to step back, to take a deep breath. And also I remember that little saying, if you spot it, you got it. Our friend Sunshine says that a lot. And that idea that, yeah, it is that the three fingers, right? When we point the fingers, the three are pointing back to us. So, yeah, I think some of these things, if we, in the moment it's hard, it's very hard, but the good spirits really help us, because sometimes when I want to call and, say something nasty to that person or write an email or something, the internet doesn't work. So it delays me,
Or the phone hangs up, right?
Yeah.
You're going to make that comment and then.
So I have to say, it's those looking out for me. So thank you. And then there are times when I don't do so well, and I have to go back with my tail between my legs and, acknowledge that, can we re-talk about that? And sometimes, I'm also learning that, like it says in one of the readings, Jesus says, if you have a problem, go talk to your brother in silence. And if he listens to you, you've won, a brother or a sister. But there are times when that person is not going to listen. And so I need to remember I'm going to be misunderstood, and it's the only way to help me grow. I need to accept I am at times going to be misunderstood. And for me to keep trying to push someone to understand me that's not charitable. That's imposition. And
this is perfect.
Yeah.
And exactly as you said, sometimes we recognize we made a mistake, but it was done already. So the best thing we could do is to try to apologize, to try to talk to the person. But sometimes the person will not accept, will not listen. But that's what we learn in Spiritism. We have to do our part. And from that moment on, we have to pray, to hope the person will understand, will forgive. But if your conscience is clean, that you actually apologize, you recognize your mistake, then that's it. Then it's up to the person to be able to one day to forgive you. And Claudia, how do you calm down? Because me and you, we are similar. We are very like, Teresa is so calm.
It's so hard to control that Scorpion. Your emotion right on where's the camera? Right on top of the skin. The emotion is right here. It's not like in there. It's right here. But age Wiseness. Time.
It is true.
Claudia today is not the same one as 10 years ago, and thank God not the same one as 20 years ago. So,
It is true. Age calms us so much more. I tell this for a whole experience. When I was younger, I was much more impulsive, and
Oh,
my husband always jokes, and I don't even think it's a joke. I think it's reality. He says that I have OCD, over compulsive disorder, because when I want something, I get like
that
crazy. I
drive.
have to do it, and sometimes from nowhere, it's like I go in a closet, I see a mess. Midnight, I decide to organize the closet, and then he starts screaming, "Go to sleep! Tomorrow is another day." So this is one of the things, and I have to really calm down. Yeah, why I'm gonna organize a closet at midnight? Tomorrow is a Saturday. I can do it. It's COVID time. I'm not gonna have parties. So one thing that with the time we start understanding ourselves, recognize our mistakes, our character faults. I know that I have a trigger. I know that I can hold something until a point, and I know if I reach to that point, so I know nowadays to not allow this to reach to that point, especially
That's
when
it.
I'm talking to my son.
There's always those
Because
special people that they know.
teenagers, they are able to make things that you get like, oh, how is that possible? But this is true. With the time we start calming down because we understand ourselves. We're like, yes, I think I should stop here to not make things worse. So what else can we talk about it, or do you think we should read another one?
I think we should go to 13 because they're so intertwined. It will just wrap up very nicely.
Okay, awesome. So 13. So 13 talks about we must not judge others more severely than we would judge ourselves. This is also something we have a tendency of doing. Like two people make a mistake, the same mistake. But if one person is our friend and another person is not, we have a tendency of partial judgment. This is something that we always do. We have a partial judgment to our buddy and to the person that we don't know. And the other sentence that's very interesting here is that it talks about, let me read just this portion. Blame cast another's conduct can have two motives: to reprimand evil or to discredit the person who acts are being criticized. The latter motive is never excusable. It's talking about the discredit because it is defamatory and malicious. The former, the reprimand, the former may be praiseworthy and when become a duty in certain cases, since good might result from it, and since without it, evil would never be restricted in society. Moreover, it's not one's duty to help with the progress of one's fellow humans. Thus, it would not be the right to take the principle. Do not judge if you do not want to be judged in the absolute sense, because the letter kills, but the spirits enlivens. What can we talk about this?
well, I think here that we, what I think the message that I'm hearing with this is, and what we can learn is that, well, number one, we know that criticism undoes love, so that can't be of God. But also, I think it's encouraging us to empower each other instead of ripping each other apart. And because if we realize that we're a reflection of each other, then we need to help each other, not tear each other down, even if we are in the wrong or made a mistake, but to help empower. So how can we help someone instead of cutting them down? How can we, when we see, something that maybe isn't right, or they haven't done well, is instead of taking advantage of that to slander them and be justified in ripping them down. I think this message here is saying that it's important that we empower each other, because just what it says at the end, because the letter kills, but the spirit enlivens.
Yes.
If we,
Yes. One thing also is that every time we are going to reprimand someone, the gospel also tells this all the time. Try to do this in private. Try to talk to this person in private. Do not make a scandal to everybody to see that you are doing, how you're doing, because this is not going to help. This is going to be worse. The person is going to be embarrassed, even angry. You will be angry, and nothing really good will come out of that. And let me just read the comment of Nora before Claudia talks about. So today I was speaking to a coworker that right now a lot of us are adjusting to in-person teaching. Oh, okay. Nora is a teacher, so she's teaching in the school now. So if we speak to each other with a little attitude, let's not take impersonal. Sometimes that helps me with anger. Sometimes it's about us. It is true. If someone comes to you and say, Angela, I'm sorry, but the way you wrote this is really horrible. Oh my God, my answer is not going to be good. I will have to drink a lot of André Luiz water to not answer in the same way. So, Claudia.
Just to add to that, I am working for a call center, right? So one of the lessons that we learn since day one, and the guy keeps repeating, is watch the way you say you answer the phone. Because even though the guy may be mad on the other line, on the other side of the call, whatever the reason is, if you are so cheerful and you're, hello, how are you, what's your name, he may change his attitude, or live it up a little bit, not be so harsh as he was expecting that he was going to blow up on you, because he may realize there's somebody cheerful on the other side. So it does take two to tango and to fight, right?
Yes, yes.
And as we approach our time, the statement that touched me more intensively in this particular reading is almost the last one. It says, there is no legitimate authority in God's eyes except that which is founded on the example of the good it does. You can do the best thing in the world, but if that does not ripple effect into more good, you didn't do much.
Yes, yes, it is true. It is true. And, many times the authority in our world is not a real moral authority. So
No.
this is very different, very different. And, the important point, we still actually have 6 minutes. I can't believe we have 6
There's a
minutes.
comment from Saul as well. You can look at it.
So excited. So let's see what Saul said. I like the part that says indulgence teach us that we must not judge others more severely than we would judge ourselves, or condemn others for what we absolve in ourselves. Totally true. That's exactly what I was I was saying before, so like if two people committed the same mistake, but one person is your friend and the other person you don't even know, we are partial. So imagine if it's ourselves. Imagine if I made that mistake, I will be very partial to myself, and we shouldn't. But this is a human characteristic. But the more we evolve, more we understand, better we start getting. And we start understanding also, sometimes we read in the news, and in the past, I had a bad judgment, because in the past, I remember, I think it was like 10 years ago, or maybe more, I read in Brazil, a teenager did something, I don't remember, did something bad, I don't remember exactly what was, and the mother discovered, and the mother was the first person to call the police. And I remember I was just like, the mother called the police on her son. I was like,
Yeah.
my God, this is a disgrace. But
Oh,
nowadays, with the knowledge I have, no. This was the she later on I read about, he was involved in drugs, she couldn't control him, was a situation very difficult. So in that moment she called the police so he would learn a hard lesson. And I'm sure any mother who did or who feel that they need to do, it's painful, but it's an important lesson. It's an important lesson. And it's a hard one, because when we think, you're like, my goodness, this would be so difficult, but it's important, and we have to learn with the lessons, the kid and the mother. One thing I remember also was um Maria de Cusa, I think. Maria de Cusa? No, Joana de Cusa. Joana de Cusa. She is going to be burned alive with her son. And in that time, she followed Jesus. And the accusers were telling her, abjura. I don't know how to say abjura. Claudia, Teresa, do you know how
It
to say
means
abjura?
renounce, renounce.
Renounce, very good. Renounce. Renounce to this Jesus, and you will be free. And she was quiet. But her son, that was with her, started telling her, Mom, Mom, renounce, renounce, and we will leave. And then she tells him with different words, but basically she said, my son, be quiet. You don't know what you're talking about. And they were both killed on fire. So I just imagine the situation, and I have my son with me crying, pleading, please, Mom, I want to leave. But she knew their bodies were going to die, but their souls would be free. But imagine to have to take this decision. Oh my God, just thinking, I already get like so nervous, how painful it could be. So very,
But I
very hard.
also think at that moment, she was not thinking with her brain. She was thinking with her heart and
Yes,
knew she suffered. That was hard in her material sense. But her spirit knew that was her mission, was to point her child to God. And
yes,
what kind of a message would that be of, oh, you can renounce when you're going to be put on fire?
yes,
It would not have been a message of truth. And she knew that her child was on loan. She didn't own him. That was
yeah,
on loan. So she was really, uh, you know, she was more in the spirit. She was not, thinking with her, because no mother with their rational brain would say, yes, let my son burn.
yes,
So
yeah,
it's a higher place to come from. And I know every time I would read that, Angie, I would cry. Every
yes,
time I read that, I just couldn't. It burned my heart. So it's a
yes,
beautiful
yes,
story of renunciation and true
yeah,
faith. True faith. She could do that because she had true faith.
amazing, amazing. So, Claudia, any final words? Our time arrived.
Just, watch and pray. Do more watching than praying. Not that you shouldn't pray a lot, but do a lot of watching. Because it's in the watching that we stay quiet.
Yes, yes. And to the ones that don't know, Joana de Cusa is actually Joana de Angelis, is one of the reincarnations of Joana de Angelis. And I saw a video with Divaldo. I believe that the sun in that time was Divaldo. I need to confirm, but I believe the sun in that time was Divaldo. So Divaldo was explaining that he and Joana, they have many lives together, not exactly as mother and son, but they lived together. They had certain connections. That's why nowadays their bonding is so strong. And she's really a severe mother. She's not easy. She's loving, but she's a tough cookie. So, girls, it was really a blessing, and I'm super excited with this new structure. I think it's beautiful to all of us. And now I would like to ask Teresa, would you do our final prayer?
Oh, I would be honored. Thank you so much, Angie.
Awesome. So, let's do it.
Okay. If you're in a place where you can, please close your eyes. Let us begin to take some deep breaths and quiet down our bodies, quiet down our minds. As we enter into the prayer, we thank you, Mother, Father, God, for this beautiful lesson, reminding us that we are all brothers and sisters, all deserving of your love. And this beautiful lesson on learning to forgive because it's good. Knowing that we liberate ourselves as we're able to let go of attachments, let go of needing to be right, let go of needing to be understood. Thank you, Master Jesus, Mother Mary, for showing us how to be better humans, how to live, how to love and forgive. Let us thank all the mentors and all the spirits who have gathered here this evening. May we all feel hope and courage and carry this beautiful message with us into our week, remembering that we are a reflection of one another. And that reflection is a reflection of God. So let us reflect well. We also take a moment just to remember those in more need than ourselves. We send out vibrations of hope and love, that those who suffer may remember they are not alone. We thank you for this beautiful study, and with gratitude and humility, we ask permission to close our studies. Thank you.
So be it. Very beautiful. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you so much, Claudia, for being here with us. I'm sure the study was much more interactive. I have my cousin here, Roberta. Very good. So, to all of you that were with us, thank you so much for being here. Remember, we are here every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, always with two guests, so it's much more exciting. So, join us next week again. So, see you soon, Teresa. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank
Mwah,
you.
peace to all of you, whatever you guys are in this beautiful blue planet. Yes! Woo!
It's
Bye-bye.
soon. God bless you all.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye-bye.